Hi, I'm WLFI Sports Director Mike Clef. This is GoldandBlack.com publisher Alan Karpick. We are breaking in because we have news regarding Matt Painter, the Purdue men's basketball coach. We have learned within the last few minutes will be staying as the Boilermakers head basketball coach. And this amidst a bunch of crazy reporting in the last few days. But we've got it confirmed. At least one Purdue player has confirmed to Sports Team 18 that Matt Painter will stay on as the Boilermakers head basketball coach. Alan, let's get your thoughts. First of all, you have news, late news from your staff, that he's going to have a contract revision in a very good way.
Yes, it's actually officially from Purdue, so it's the real deal. I mean, he's going to have a contract through 2019 that extends the contract 2 years for Coach Matt Painter. And, I think the collective sigh of relief in Boilermaker Nation is palpable at this point.
Alan, what has been, you and I have done this for a long time, but how crazy was it for you? I mean, there was one media outlet today that reported that he was leaving. There were three others that had tweeted within the last 2 days that he had accepted a 14-year, $7 million offer at Missouri. And let's say that's not true. What's this been like, all the stuff that has been out there?
Well, it's been an amazing, even in the last 4 hours since really St. Louis, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch on a blog said that he was saying. That kind of started the whole firestorm right before noon today. But I know that Brian Newbert and Kyle Charters have gone through about every internet source and every source that we've been able to deal with to get this nailed down. But it has been an odyssey, a real roller coaster for Purdue fans. Over 2,000 people on our message boards alone, which is an all-time record. Just people waiting to find out the answer, but an amazing roller coaster to say the least.
All right, Alan, let's clear up some things right here. According to Brian Newbert's story, not only is there a contract revision for Coach Painter, but also it appears that his assistant coaches are going to get raises as well. And, who knows? That there could be one, perhaps two assistant coaching openings for Coach Painter's staff. So that's got to be a big development as well.
Yeah, and yet I don't absolutely know that to be true, but I'm going to assume that that's going to be the case because that was, as we understood it, the crux of this deal. It wasn't necessarily the big contract for Painter that was important. It was really all the ancillary things, the assistant coach's salary, some of the other things that they felt they needed to make this program a national championship contender. So, it'll be interesting to see once we see that contract or hear more about that contract, what all is in it. But it's clear to me that Matt Painter got what he needed to have this program move forward in a way that he wants it to over the next 7-8 years.
Alan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. The most important thing is we have not heard any public comments yet from Matt Painter, from Morgan Burke, athletic director, or from President Franz Cordova to us regarding this situation. Do you think we will hear anything soon? And if so, what do you think they'll say? Well,
I think you will hear something. We have heard from the school in terms of the length of the contract, so that's an important first step. I think everybody's trying to gather. The coach isn't due back, as we understand it, till 8 o'clock tonight, and that may have an impact of when he gets to talk to his team. But my guess is that Purdue will put all this together, and you will hear from all the main players, all the principals that were part of this entire event, mainly Matt Painter and his players. That would be who I would expect to take center stage throughout the course of the discussion after the decision's been reached.
Two-part question, Alan. How important is it that he's staying? And hypothetically, how devastating would it have been if he had left?
Well, I think it's extremely important. If you look at Purdue and what this man has done as a basketball coach, the sky is still the limit. And I think that with a guy like Matt Painter, yes, this season ended in a little bit of a disappointment, but you also saw the greatness of his abilities three times out of the last 4 years, Big Ten Coach of the Year. So I think you look at that high-end potential, it's still there. There is a lot of good things to come in Purdue basketball. Had he left, I think it would have been very, very difficult for Purdue to replace this thing. The term catastrophic might have been too strong, but because all things can be worked out in time, but it would have been a very, very difficult thing for the Purdue fan base to take, losing a guy that is really a true diamond in Matt Painter and a young one as well, only 40 years old. You have to like, if you're a Purdue fan, the fact that this guy is going to be around, hopefully at Purdue for a long time.
Another aspect of this, hopefully in the near future, we'll get comments from Purdue players. They have not been available. Again, Alan, I'll put you on the spot. This has to have been especially hard on the current players and the 2 players who are signed for next season in Jacob Lawson and Donnie Hale.
Well, and I think, though, the difficult thing with that is not knowing. But we all didn't know. And I think that Matt Painter, in fairness to him, you have opportunities that you look at, and you have the chance to, you have the right to do that. And he's also on vacation during this time. And I think that all that plays into it some, is that Matt Painter was checking out an opportunity. He did that. He did the right thing by staying in contact with his players. And in the end, at least if you're a Purdue basketball fan and player, the news is good.
All right, he is Alan Karpick of goldenblack.com. I am Mike Cleff of WLFI Sports Team 18. Once again, our breaking news, Matt Painter will remain as the men's basketball coach at Purdue. He has agreed in principle to a contract revision. It'll be 8 years, taking him through 2019. We've got to wrap things up on the broadcast side, but hey, we're going to continue this on our website. There's our website right there. Alan and I will keep discussing this at WLFI.com. We appreciate you joining us. We now join our rescheduled programming.
This has been a News Channel 18 special report. News from where you live.
Thought it would be about a sandwich, and the first time I went to Harvard, I said, listen, it's not about a sandwich. It's about cutting down marketing promotion costs. It's about more.
All right, I am Mike Cleff of Sports Team 18, and this is Alan Karpick of goldenblack.com. Welcome to our live stream chat. More on WLFI.com amidst the big news, the breaking news that Matt Painter will stay as Purdue men's basketball coach. Alan, we've touched on this on the broadcast side and the website, and we'll continue on the website. First and foremost, Alan, and again, neither one of us had talked to Matt Painter directly, but take me through your reaction when you first heard about this speculation to Matt Painter going to Missouri, possibly to where it stood as early as, say, 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Well, I think my first reaction was, in all honesty, was surprised that it was Missouri. It wasn't a surprise that somebody else was interested, and it wasn't shocking that it was Missouri in the context of it being Matt Painter, because Matt Painter is so well respected as a basketball coach around the country that it's no surprise that folks were interested in him. But what I always had the hard time reconciling was Missouri going to be the perfect fit for him? It was a match for him, and I've said that because of its recruiting base and the fact it's a Midwestern school and all of that. But I just didn't think he was going would leave everything he had at Purdue and build at Purdue. Oh, I thought it would be very difficult to do. It's obvious that he gave a lot of consideration to this down there as this time has gone on, and tried to figure out what was best for him and his family, but also what's best for his players. And that's the thing that's hard to minimize in this situation, is that Matt Painter and not only Rob Hummel, but Lewis Jackson, Ryan Smith, on down the line, you have guys that mean a lot to him. And I think in the end, maybe that we'll find out when he speaks, but that certainly had to have something to do with it.
Let me take a step off to the side here, Alan. I'm going to put you in the shoes of Mike Alden, Missouri's athletic director. It was very clear, based on the Missouri sites that were reporting, that Matt Painter was Mike Alden's #1 choice.
No doubt.
Now who do you think he looks at?
Well, there's talk down there about Shaka Smart. He's the flavor of the month, flavor of the week, maybe right now. The Virginia Commonwealth VCU head coach, of course, they beat Purdue as well. So, you have to look at that and wonder. But that was why it was important that this decision was made sooner than later, because Missouri needed to move on. And there's kind of a moratorium of sorts during the Final Four, where the coaches, they all meet and talk. And jobs a lot of time come out of that, but they don't like to have announcements during the Final Four. So that if you're Missouri, you want to move forward. But I think Missouri is an attractive place for a lot of people. They're obviously willing to pay relatively well, and there always are some hot young coaches that will look into that. I know in St. Louis today they were bringing up the name of Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart would have been brought up at Purdue had Matt Painter taken the job in Columbia. All
right. Now, we mentioned earlier on the broadcast side, Alan, that one of the things in Brian Newbert of goldenblack.com's story they are discussing terms of revised compensation arrangements for the assistant coaches at Purdue. And I think we go back to a year ago, Brian and I have talked about this, when Rick Ray left. That was kind of a moment that really shed light on that. But when I mentioned earlier, Alan, there could be as many as 2 assistant coaching openings. Mike Jackson is still under suspension, so He might be back, he might not be back. And, of course, Paul Lusk Brian is on record saying this guy is ready to be a head coach, and there's no doubt about it. His name's been linked to Northern Illinois before that job was filled, to Bradley, and now it's being linked to Conzo Martin's old job at Missouri State.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see where the chips fall. And Paul Lusk could have been somebody that would have had the opportunity here again had Matt Painter taken off for Missouri. I think that there's certainly a lot of talk about that. It will be very interesting to see how that's addressed. I'm sure that question will be asked. I can guarantee that question will be asked of Matt Painter in terms of how much of that infrastructure building, in terms of assistant coaches' salaries and any other types of things that Coach Matt Painter thinks he needs to have that national championship program. And I think that the good thing for Matt Painter is Paul Lusk, very capable guy, Jack Owens as well. Jack Owens not likely going anywhere in the near term, but Matt Painter has always said, and I guess any good boss says, that we try to groom guys for their next great opportunity, and it's only a reflection of your program if you have guys that are able to go on. And I think that they certainly feel that way in Paul Lusk. Whether Paul takes the job at Missouri State or gets offered remains to be seen, but I'm sure he'll be on their short list.
Alan, from the outside, again, we mentioned the Boilermaker connection. How much of a role in this whole thing, how it finally played out, did Conzo Martin taking the job at Tennessee have in this whole domino effect?
That's hard to say, Mike. I think that you look at the situation and you say things play out for a reason. It may have changed from a negotiating standpoint, may have changed things also slightly in terms of Purdue's fallback position. Because Conzo Martin was certainly a natural tie to Purdue, his natural tie to Purdue, that he would be a natural replacement to Matt Painter. How much effect did that have on the negotiation? And whether this was solely a negotiating ploy, I don't know if that's a question we're ever going to get the answer. My guess is it wasn't solely that. I think that Matt Painter's a pretty honest guy. He looks at opportunities, and he was intrigued by Missouri for whatever reason, and rightfully so. And yet, ultimately, Matt Painter also maybe was able to put himself in a position to get his program tweaked to the way that he feels he needs it to move forward. And I think that will be interesting to see how much of that message is brought forward when we talk to the main players, meaning Matt Painter, possibly the players, and possibly Athletics Director Morgan Burke.
Before we wrap things up, Alan, this was handed to me by Nicole Kahn. That's an official release that I think Kyle Charters had alluded to. Purdue and head men's basketball coach Matt Painter have agreed on a new 8-year contract through the 2018-2019 season. Terms of the contract not disclosed. Morgan Burke's quoted as saying, quote, "We are thrilled to announce that Matt will continue his leadership of our men's basketball program at his alma mater. He has been at the helm of the winningest 4-year period in the storied history of Boilermaker basketball. We pledge to work with him to win championships." Painter is quoted as saying, "I am extremely excited about continuing my career at Purdue. I believe we have built something very special. At the same time, I feel we have much more ahead of us to accomplish." He's quoted a couple more things in there. The last line says Painter is in Florida and will return to campus later today or tomorrow. Alan, your reaction?
Yeah, my reaction is that's what I would expect him to say, and I think Morgan Burke would be thrilled, just because, again, this guy is a very special coach, and I don't mean to understate that. This guy is not only has he brought Purdue to 100 wins over the last 4 years, but I think you look at this season, Mike, and say this is really, even though it didn't end the way a lot of Purdue fans would have liked to have seen it end, it was maybe his best coaching job in a lot of ways, just to be able to get that team to be able to do that. And that's to be able to achieve the things it did. Maybe it was in February and not in March, but this is a very special guy, and I think that's not surprising. And I know Matt Painter is a very goal-oriented person. He wouldn't achieve the things that he's achieved, and yet the one missing thing on his resume, Mike, and I think he'd be the first guy to say it, is a run extremely deep into the NCAA tournament. That will be his next challenge and the next thing that he'll be working forward to try to get done.
All right, we'll have more on this coming up on 5 o'clock on WLFI as well as 6 o'clock. And, of course, you can read plenty more about it, get plenty more reaction on WLFI.com and GoldandBlack.com. Alan Karpick, the publisher of GoldandBlack.com, on very short notice. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoyed it. It's always good to have good news if you're a Purdue fan.
Absolutely. Take care.